Hey, good afternoon. It's your boy Pigskin Pete. Happy Tuesday to everybody. There's several words in the sports world, especially from fans, that really get on my nerves and are way overused. One of them in particular, the one that's getting on my nerves right now and gets on my nerves every time this year when the draft comes around, is overrated. Overrated, right? I can't tell you how many times I've heard this quarterback's overrated, this player's overrated, bust. That's another one, bust. This guy's going to be a bust. I heard this about Deshaun Watson. Believe it or not, there were actually people, a lot of people too, out there that were saying, oh, Deshaun Watson, he's nothing but Vince Young 2.0. Overrated, he's going to be a bust. And you hear this every single year. And I'm not always right on my evaluation of players, how they translate from college to the NFL. Nobody is. Even the guys who are getting paid big money to draft them and pay them, they're wrong a lot of times too. But fans, they can't separate their fandom from their college team and just evaluate the player for who they are. Last year, I can go through several years if you want to. I'm not going to bore you with all that. But last year, remember? Kyler Murray. How many of you went on YouTube channels? I go to a lot of YouTube. I read a lot. During this quarantine, I'm probably spending way too much time on social media. I'll admit that. We all probably spend too much time on social media to begin with. But remember Kyler Murray? Oh, he's too short. He's going to be a bust. Overrated. He played in the Big 12. Of course, he was going to look good in the Big 12. Where are all those people now? Where are you people at now that were telling me that Kyler Murray was no good, too small, going to get murdered in the NFL? He won't last 2 weeks. He was the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL last year. Played great on a bad team, nonetheless. Lots of players have been overrated. And this is what the overrated crowd, is what I call them. The overrated crowd. This is what they do. They'll name every year everybody's overrated, right? So they'll say 10 guys that are overrated. 2 of them will end up being busts. And they'll go, see, I told you he was overrated. I was wrong about the other 8 guys, but the 2 that I said were overrated, I told you they were overrated. So what you're seeing now with the draft coming up is Tua Tagovailoa. I can't tell you how many Twitter feeds and YouTube channels, whether it's ESPN or Pat McAfee. Just go down the list. There's dozens of them. Go read the comment sections in these videos talking about Tua. Overrated. Injury prone. That's another one. I'm guilty of using injury prone. If somebody gets multiple injuries, then they're injury prone. We're all injury prone. Once you get injured, was Bo Jackson injury prone? No, but it only took one injury. Every single player is one play away from possibly being knocked out of playing ever again. Tua suffered a terrible injury to his hip. Listen, there's no doubt about it. That was a serious thing, and there was questions whether or not he would be able to recover from that and have an NFL career. I get all that. But Tua overrated? Well, what planet are people living on where they think that Tua's overrated? I hear the same thing about Trevor Lawrence. This is another thing I see all the time. Trevor Lawrence, he's overrated. Well, did you see him against LSU? He played terrible. What about the other 29 games he played? He dominated everybody. Overrated, my ass. Yeah, that's why every single NFL scout, since his kid was 16 years old, is ready to draft him now because he's overrated, right? But you know more than they do. You know more than they do. So Tua, today, I think it was today, he released like a 10-second, 15-second video of him throwing a football, which it really was nothing. It was like him running around a couple cones and throwing a ball. It looked fine to me, I guess. But I've been one of Tua's biggest defenders because I'm not part of the overrated crowd. I can separate myself. I think Joe Burrow is amazing. I think Tua Tagovailoa is amazing. When there's a good football player, and you can tell they're good football players, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. I don't understand this overrated thing. Are there people? Have people watched Tua Tagovailoa play football over the past 3 years? Has anybody watched these games? Now, many people, myself included, if you're a hardcore college football fan, you can go ahead and just submit to the fact that the SEC top to bottom has the best defenses in college football. Now, there's some great teams in the ACC that have great defenses, right? There's a couple, Big 10, Pac-12, whatever. Big 12, not so much, but you get my point. But as a whole, from top to bottom, the SEC has the best defenses week in, week out, year in, year out in college football. Tua Tagovailoa absolutely slaughtered and assassinated them. Now, he had some injury problems. Yes, he did. A couple of those were kind of fluky. But when he's on the field and he's not hobbling around, he absolutely murdered everybody. There's very few people that come along within a 10-year or 15-year period that have the arm talent that Tua Tagovailoa has. The accuracy, he can make every throw. He's smart, obviously a hard worker. How is that overrated? I know Georgia fans aren't running around talking about Tua's overrated. When they had Alabama on the ropes for the first half of that national championship a few years ago, and Tua Tagovailoa came in and absolutely destroyed them. And he went on week after week after week after week and just destroyed everybody in his path. Not every game. Nobody's perfect. I want one person to tell me how you're perfect every single day at your job or whatever sport you play. You're perfect all the time. Never had a bad day. Never had a bad game. Right? You're just the man. Right? Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa is human. Trevor Lawrence is human. They had some bad plays, but I don't understand what people are seeing when they look at Tua Tagovailoa's skill set and his game tape and telling me that he's overrated. You know, this Walt, let me see if I can find this. I don't know if you guys remember. Some of you guys are newer here. I guess this was probably, I don't know, it was a while ago. It was like 6 months ago probably. This guy, hold on, let me see if I can find it here. That's the, all right, Walt Deptula. You remember that video I made on Walt Deptula? For those of you who don't know who Walt Deptula is, he's a hack of a afternoon drive radio host for The Roar in upstate South Carolina. And he talks like this because he's a complete and total douchebag. And he blocks everybody on Twitter. Apparently, I didn't know who he was until he did block me on Twitter. And the reason he blocked me on Twitter, for those of you who haven't heard this story before or didn't see that video, was because he tweeted out something about Justin Herbert's going to be the first quarterback taken in the draft, and that's already been proven. I already know that, and so I responded to it. I didn't follow him. I didn't even know who he was. He just came across my timeline, and I responded to it and said, "What makes you think Herbert's going to be the first quarterback taken in the draft? I don't hear anybody tanking for Herbert. I hear people talking about tanking for Tua." And he went on a tirade, and here's his tirade. You can see it all here. Here's my response. Someone forgot Tua's going to most likely enter the draft too. No one is tanking for Herbert. Now, mind you, this is before Tua got hurt, but that's besides the point. And he says, Justin Herbert, who will be the number one pick in the draft next year, we have been saying this forever, has thrown for blah, 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 and lists his stats. And then I said, well, what about Tua? And he goes, then he tells me, and you can't see that tweet here because I don't know if I don't know what happened. But anyway, he said, just stick around, but I know more about this than you do. Well, there it is. Yes, he will. I know more about this than you do. Stick around. There you go. And then I said, oh, you know more about it than me, huh? Because I didn't even know who this guy was. And he goes, I know more than everybody, not just you, genius. Proven over and over again. Go check the Huddle Report. I know more than Mayock, McShay, and Mel Kiper. And LOL, yes, you. And then, before I could respond to that, over here on the far right, I went to respond to him. Deptula has rage has blocked you. Deptula has rage blocked me because I thought that Tua was better than Herbert. Right? Anyway, so apparently Deptula thinks that Tua is overrated too. And we'll see how this all plays out. I have a feeling, and this, like I said, this is even before Tua got hurt. Now, you can make the argument now that maybe Tua might fall a little bit behind Herbert because of the injury, but he still might go ahead of Herbert even with the injury. But Walt, he knows more than everybody. Me, McShay, Kuiper, everybody. Overrated. Walt Deptula is overrated, if he's rated at all. Anyway, I hate the overrated thing. I don't know what people are watching. And then and again, what they do is everybody's overrated. And then when they're successful, like Deshaun Watson's been, when they're successful, like Kyler Murray was last year, then they just disappear. And you won't hear from those people again, right? All they did was spend 6 months spouting on every single social media outlet comment section they can get on about how somebody's overrated, and then when they aren't, they just disappear. And then they go start talking about how somebody else is overrated. One thing's for sure, this YouTube channel is overrated. Peete, check it out.